Alderman Creel.
Here.
Alderman Royal. Alderman Astor.
Here.
Mayor Odom.
Here.
Alderman Kinsey.
Here.
Alderman Best.
Present.
Okay, board, you all should have received an email earlier this week from Alderman Brinson, I guess now Senator Brinson, that he had resigned his position from Ward 6 Alderman to accept the oath of office for the state Senate seat. That creates a vacancy, obviously, on our board. So I felt like this is something fairly significant that we needed to discuss. And asked the attorney, I believe he sent an email out to us yesterday, but maybe if he wants to kind of kick us off and let us know the process, what the requirements are, and how we can go through this.
Yes, sir, Mayor, Mr. Board. Statute provides that the board fills the seat. Statute is very clear that it is your prerogative, and you will do that by a majority vote of the board. Elections and sub-elections, those kinds of procedures are not authorized by the statute. Just takes a simple majority vote to do that. You have several months to do that. The sooner the better. Vacant seats are not helpful, obviously. Why do I say 2 months? County statutes have a 60-day time period. City statutes don't have a time period, so in my business, we call it a reasonable time, and we look at the county statute and say that's probably reasonable enough. So several months, although I can't think of a scenario where I've had a board in the last many decades take more than 3, 4, 5 weeks to fill the vacancy. In doing that, several options are available to you. Sometimes boards will have an immediate consensus on who to fill the seat, and if that's the case, that can be done very rapidly by vote. Sometimes there are multiple candidates, or there are public officials who want to promote a particular person who's expressed an interest to them. If that's the case, I suggest a written ballot where you adopt a procedure among yourselves to thin the herd so that you get it down to a couple of people. But as soon as you have in that process a person who has a majority of the votes, then that person would fill the position. Questions?
Questions?
Why don't we do what you just said, get a list of names of people, therefore we can narrow it down to the person that we're going to select. Therefore, no one can say that, hey, I wanted to do it, but nobody chose me. So I think that's the direction to go in.
Well, yeah, I'd just like to add, I mean, we're in the middle of summer, things are very quiet in the city right now, that's not a bad thing. It affords us an opportunity to take our time in this process. Bob's resignation happened just in the last week. We have not had a chance to communicate out to residents in Ward 6 that there is a vacancy. I think we need to do everything that we can through social media, through word of mouth, possibly even direct mailing to the residents in Ward 6, letting them know what the process would be, and I think this board has yet to identify that. Hopefully we can do that this morning. That if we have more than one individual who expresses an interest in the position, and I know of one other individual in addition to the one who has communicated their interest to the city, I suspect that there may be others out there, so I would like to see us encourage anybody in Ward 6 who may have an interest to express that interest in the city to us, so that we can then establish a procedure to possibly sit down with each of those individuals and talk to them before a final decision on the vote is taken. So I would like to see us take the time to go through a process that opens this up to anybody and everybody before any final final decisions.
I concur with Alderman Kinsey and Alderman Krill. I do think that we need to give our citizens an opportunity, those citizens within Ward 6, an opportunity to present themselves to us for this seat. It's always been my stance to always give our citizens an opportunity to come forward, to speak, to voice their concerns and be a part of our government. And I do know that there are other individuals in Ward 6 that is interested in this seat, because I've had two to contact me this morning. So I too would like to give as Attorney Davis said, we want to fill this seat as soon as possible, but I do think we need to take the proper time to vet citizens that come forward that have an interest in this particular seat.
I agree that we should get the citizens of Ward 6 involved. I think anyone that's interested in this seat should actually submit a letter of interest along with a resume to the city clerk, so we'll know who's interested and what their experience may be.
And then if we, Attorney Davis, if we get numerous candidates, we can always go with the ballot vote, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I concur with all. I'm in total agreement to give opportunity to our citizens, those who may have an interest in serving. We already have a process on board for various boards that exist within the city. I think it's good to follow that precedence that we have. Again, we made mention of that in submitting an application or submitting a letter of interest to the city clerk, and all of us getting an opportunity to review. And that's the procedure for our other boards. And I feel that it's a good protocol for this particular opportunity.
With a resume?
Yes, yes.
My concern about the resume is that not everybody necessarily has a resume that might be current.
Well, just something, I mean, a couple paragraphs.
A letter that would maybe outline background, interests, and that kind of thing.
That would be a resume, I think, you know.
Okay, made some notes, Attorney Davis, social media, obviously there's no cost associated with that, it shouldn't be an issue. I'm sure the manager can work with our PIO to handle that. The direct mailing piece that Alderman Pearl mentioned, there would obviously be a cost associated with that. We don't have that in the budget, so I don't know.
Could it bill the electric bill by any chance? To the extent we'll read it.
That's a question for
It's
staff.
free, it's free, it might be an option.
I didn't understand what you said in terms of.
The electric bill has a space for community notes. I just don't know if there's a fee associated with that.
There's definitely a fee, because I remember we've talked in the past about getting information out that way. There's a fee associated with it. The only question I would have with that is how you delineate the ward, because our ward boundaries don't necessarily match up with our electric bills, but
Some of the people are only have city electric that's in that board.
That's true.
that's true too. Alderman Pruill, would you be okay with the social media and the word of mouth, and we weren't able to do the direct mail? Would you be okay with that?
Well, direct mail is not a difficult thing to achieve. I would defer to others, but there are easy ways to identify the boundaries of Ward 6 in this case, and to then pull addresses out of systems that are already in place, information that's already available, to generate a mailing list, and then it's just a matter of what the direct mailing would entail. And I would simply envision just an announcement that a position has come open. We are considering anybody interested in being considered for the position. Just outlining the term of office, that it's filling an unexpired term, and that, if anybody's interested, to submit a letter. to the city by a certain date, just to keep it very simple. That way we are guaranteeing that we're hitting every household, because social media, we don't know how many people social media is going to be touching.
There's another solution too. I mean, we've got that reverse 911 system that can identify the boundaries and send a telephone call out to them and announce it.
But I think you have to sign up to be a participant in that, if I'm not mistaken, and not everybody.
Oh, there's a colleague right here.
She's not here, so.
She, unfortunately, she's out this week.
Yeah,
I think
You do have to be
I think you
signed up.
sign, I think you sign up to receive the alerts, but I think you can send out a message. And the old system, we used to be able to do it that way. We've got a new system now, but that might be a solution if we can identify the boundaries and just send a phone call out to everybody. You do that a couple times.
So how about if staff can research this topic and then follow back up with the board on some options for direct mail, reverse 911, any forms of communication that we get the message out of staff, we kind of take that as a takeaway and then report back to the board.
Can also, Attorney Davis, can't we receive the, Ward 6, citizens from the Board of Election? Wouldn't that give us the names and addresses of all those that's in Ward 6?
Yes,
And then the city, we can take that information and decipher, send out the phone calls.
That's registered voters.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean, because you could not be registered and eligible to run for alderman.
I believe our own GIS system and our census data will get us pretty deep
Okay.
into the population. We know there's roughly 5,000 voting people in that ward. There's how many households there are by mailing address.
I mean, yes, there is a cost with the direct mailing. I don't know what that would be. I suspect it was going to be a few $100s. I would expect that our budget for that.
Okay, the next note I had was interview process. What does the board have in mind for an interview process? Obviously, if it's going to be a quorum, it would be an open public meeting, unless you wanted to take it into small groups and rotate through, but that's just more time for potential candidates to have to sit through multiple meetings. Any ideas on how you'd like to do that process?
I would, again, without knowing how many interested parties there may be, and I don't expect that there's going to be a lot, but even if it's just a handful, I mean, I would like to see this board have an open public meeting and invite those interested parties to come in, not as a group, just one at a time. And yes, it's going to be an open meeting, but if somebody is interested in being a member of this board, they need to be comfortable talking about themselves in an open public session. And that would just give us a chance to talk with them, get to know them a little bit better. And once we get through that process, then I think we're in a better position to start voting.
Anyone not satisfied with that process?
I don't have a problem with that process, but you don't know how many candidates is gonna come forward. And I just think that we don't have that process in place for our other boards. We don't have a period where we interview them and talk to them and get to know them. And they just go through the process of submitting information in, and then we take that information, decipher it and read it and come up with the candidate that we feel is the most qualified.
I agree. I really.
Yeah.
Okay, so it
I
sounds
was,
like two or don't necessarily want to have an interview process. Well, Alderman Kinsey and Royal, any thoughts on that?
Well, again, as I spoke earlier, we have a process in place with all of our boards. So I would like to follow that process.
Alderman Kinsey, do you have a thought on that? Okay. Alderman Creel, sounds like the interview in a public session is not necessarily the will of the majority of the board. I do think that there's there's certainly some benefits to doing that, but also you had mentioned that doing it one by one where they all wouldn't be here, but if 5 people decide they want to put their name in the hat, it's a public meeting, 4 of them can be here while the one is technically being interviewed, so, that could be interesting. It could almost be like a candidate, panel, if you will, but,
And Mayor, in addition to that,
Yes, ma'am.
when they submit their information, telephone number, whatever the case might be, we still have the opportunity to make phone calls, engage them, talk with them. If we have any questions, to field out questions to them as individuals. And if whatever questions we might have or answers we receive, we can always report back to the board and share that information.
okay. That was all the notes that I had. Did I miss anything in our conversation?
The one thing that I would like to express is that we take our time. Whatever it takes, that we can move through this process, not to be rushed in it, but to take our time. If there's no statutory regulation that says we have to operate within a time frame, according to Attorney Davis, then I'd like for us to take our
60 days.
Yeah, he said that, but he says he's doing that in comparison with the county, but as far as we're concerned, there's no statutory regulation that says we have to do it within a certain time. I still encourage us to take our time getting through this process.
Also, how many sources of social media do we have in the city? I know we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have TV3, and we have, isn't there other sources? Twitter, yeah. I mean, so it can go out that way as well. I mean, we can advertise out to our citizens that way as well. I mean, I don't know, I know it's probably not required of us to put it in the newspaper. Is it city clerk? Okay. So I don't know if that would be a source, but I just hope that we can come up with a candidate list for Ward 6 that's gonna not require us spending so much money trying to get this information compiled and put together and put out there. I mean, sent to the residents of Ward 6.
Just a couple comments. I would say, we had our election was in 22, right? It's supposed to be 21, it ended up being 22. There were 2 candidates that filed for Ward 6, obviously, former alderman, now Senator Brinson, and Travis Oakley. And Travis now is a city employee, works for our public works department, so he's technically eligible. So just keep that in mind, because the election wasn't that long ago. The other thing, Alderman Royal, I would just somewhat caution us on taking our time too long. As we all know, time goes by quickly. We're in August. This term will be over in December of next year. So what is that, 15 months or so? As you all know, we were all new board members at some point in time. It's a pretty steep learning curve. We have 2 aldermen who were former employees, so they kind of had a little bit of heads up. And then Alderman Creel was a former town manager, so he had that. But if you find somebody that rises to the top, that doesn't understand local government, they're not familiar with the city, the learning curve will be longer for them. And I believe, City Manager, we have a couple of upcoming meetings. One is going to be a multi-hour meeting over our land use ordinance update. That's going to be a pretty in-depth workshop, which is very technical. And then we also, I think the city clerk was polling about the bond referendum, which will be coming up. So we've got very important things on the horizon. So I don't want to rush it either, but I also don't want to drag our feet so long that somebody comes in and the next thing we're doing is starting our next budget workshop. So I just think we need to keep that in mind. So. Anything else that we haven't covered this morning? Anything from staff?
Is the board, just going back to like a direct mailing, I mean, is the board willing to do that, or nobody has an interest in it?
I don't have an issue with the direct mailing personally. It's going to be more than a few $100, the campaign and doing mailings throughout the city. Just a postcard, it was several $1,000s, but that was for the city. Keep in mind, this is just gonna be for, one particular award. If staff comes back and it's, $2,000, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If you come back and it's $10,000, that'd probably be a different story, but I don't know if we wanna give them some guidelines on a dollar amount, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be $1,000.
Okay.
So staff is gonna come back, let's conclude this, staff is gonna come back in to us with please restate what we're asking you to do.
Yes, ma'am, we will, with the guidance that you've given us, we'll come back with the options that you all requested for us to look into, by next week sometime, and let you all make a decision. How you all want to proceed, but we'll give you all the options for the social media as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?